This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It is Party Loaded, the 197th installment of this here show, chatting about everything that is great in the world of video games. My name is Luke Retallick. Joining me tonight for this special haunted episode of the show, we have Matt, the Game Dad Diet, Christian Paulson Brown, and Adrian Chia. What's going on?
Is the haunting thing a Destiny? Is that a Destiny thing?
Yeah, it's totally a Destiny thing. Moon's
I was
haunted.
wondering because it's a bit early for Halloween.
No, yeah, but we're kind of
never too early.
October. Yeah, that's true. There are people that celebrate Halloween for like a solid month in the US, I'm sure. It's like an institution
witches?
over there.
I wish we celebrated it here like they do over there.
Really? Actually, I'm
like
curious. Are you guys pro or against trick-or-treating in general in Australia? Do you think it's a thing we should do over here or not?
Yeah, I think it's fine. If it's
fine.
fun for kids.
Yeah, I like it.
You like
Yeah.
it?
The only reason I'm against it is because of the fact that Halloween's not got the pickup that it really needs for kids to actually have a good time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
It's not replacing anything. It's not removing. So I see it just as like a net benefit add for fun. So
So you don't see it as a vehicle for kids running around with face concealing masks, like doing all sorts of nasty, like potentially illegal shit?
kids can do that anytime they want. They don't need to wait for Halloween.
Okay, that's a pretty good point. That's a super good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I did.
Adrian, I was thinking the precise same thing.
I don't give a shit about Halloween.
Exactly. Yeah, we've got a bit of a spooky theme going on tonight. So with the main game that we're going to be chatting about later, but yeah, of course, Destiny is sort of a thing on our minds too. But before we get talking about Destiny, I want to throw to Christian and get talking about something that I know you've been playing, which I've been kind of eager to hear your thoughts on because this is a fairly large game of recent years. So what's going on?
Yeah, so I mentioned last week that I'd started Horizon Zero Dawn. I am now well into it. I haven't checked my game time, but somewhere 20 to 25 hours, I'd say.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a really, really good game. Like I knew going into it that I was pretty much guaranteed to like it just because of everything I had already seen. It just took me a while to get around to actually playing it. It's obviously a gorgeous looking game. It just looks amazing. Running it on the optimized performance mode, of course, because I'm a frame rate freak, but it still looks amazing. And like the actual hunting of the robots is really fun. I like the way that you have like heaps of tools at your disposal for how you approach each creature, and you kind of learn certain patterns of like you become proficient at, destroying the blaze canister on this robot and then it'll just fucking explode or like freeze this one. So I like that process of learning how to overcome obstacles rather than just getting higher stats. That's one thing that surprised me is the game has like gear and it has levels, but there's very few stats. Like you don't get like your health goes up every time you level, but there's no base strength or other kind of like statistics which are increasing as you level up. And the weapons that you get more of those like modification slots. So you can, boost the weapons, but the core damage remains the same across each weapon type, regardless of the rarity. And I like that. I like that kind of flat difficulty curve where it is more reliant on your skill than stats. So that's something I really enjoy about the game. Story, I'm finding lackluster, but I think that might be because I spent too much time like dicking around. I've kind of left huge gaps between my story missions, so I've really lost the momentum. Like the setting is really cool. I love the setting of the game, but plot wise, it's not really grabbing me. But
Okay.
maybe later.
Have you explored the right-hand side of the main map yet, or are you kind of still over on the left-hand side, or are you still sort of over on the right where you start off?
I have explored to some degree the entire map. I've unlocked all the tall necks, so I've cleared the whole fog of war. I haven't run around everywhere, but I've seen most of what the environments have to offer, I think.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And have you got the DLC, the Frozen Wilds DLC as well?
No, I don't. I'm not sure. We'll see how. It'll probably depend how long the game takes me to get through as to whether I can be bothered playing through that as well.
Yeah. One recommendation I was going to make to you is that it's worth getting that through your first playthrough. The reason being is because it actually inserts it partway through the campaign. It's not something you do at the end.
Okay.
So, yeah, because if you add it on after you've completed the game, then you actually have to go back to an earlier save before the final sort of mission and go to a whole other area of the map and play it through and then sort of come back and finish the game. So I think it would be better pacing if you kind of blend it through the rest as you go.
Because I'm already struggling with the pacing as far as like not getting to the main content quick enough, I probably won't do the DLC. I think that part of the reason that I've dragged my heels so much is because I don't actually like the crafting, some of the crafting system, like the having to upgrade all of your quivers and bags and everything by hunting just the regular animals like the geese and shit.
Yeah.
That annoys me because what the way my like crazy gamer psychology worked is as soon as I could upgrade all those bags, I wanted to fully upgrade them all before I went and did anything else.
Yeah.
So I spent tons of time just running around farming animals because I felt like if I didn't have the maximum like arrow capacity, then I was like handicapping myself. So that's kind of my fault, but I spent a lot of time doing that.
Makes sense. So who out of us hasn't played this game now? Adrian, have you played it?
Yeah, I played it. I didn't do the DLC though. I can't remember why, but I remember kind of rushing through Horizon, and I don't remember why that was exactly. I just remember kind of playing it out of obligation and enjoying it somewhat. Well, mostly enjoying it, but I don't know. I find my appetite for open world games has diminished as I've gotten a bit older. And I particularly don't enjoy open world games that give you, what is it, like time trials and shit like that, or like
the hunter trials.
Yeah, like traversal challenges and that kind of thing. I hate those kinds of side missions because like I feel like I have to do them, but I never want to. And I don't know, it's a weird psychological thing. It kind of puts me off. So I did finish the game. I couldn't tell you anything about it now. I just have a few like snapshots in my mind, and that's about it.
I remember talking to you about it, Adrian, after you played it, and the one thing I remember you saying is that how much you liked the shell crab enemy, like the robots with like the crab claw and the big like container on their back. It's the one thing I remember you saying.
Yeah. How unlike me to.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds totally off-brand for Adrian.
That makes sense.
I've been pleasantly surprised at some of the open world elements. I was worried there'd be more padding in like the fetch quests, but there hasn't really been for my taste. I felt like all of the side missions I've done have felt like unique and scripted, and those hunter trials are really the only. They're not really repetitive, but they feel like those Spider-Man challenges, that same sort of thing. Yeah.
I know what you mean. They're kind of designed to polish your skill at a particular aspect of the game mechanics without, but they kind of like force your hand a bit on it. So
that's why I actually like them though, is because they have taught me new ways of approaching the machines. Like those trials have made me rethink how I approach machines and learn like new tricks, and I've enjoyed that. So
yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, no, I think your opinion on the combat is where I fell on that as well. Like the combat was one of the most fun things about that game. Just the different ways you can approach creatures and the technical nature of some of the fights. I think that was super fun. So
definitely,
yeah, nice, very cool. It's weird to think that game is like 2+ years old now. It doesn't feel like it's that long.
No, and it's still one of the best looking games I've seen. Although some of the facial animations are a bit weird. Like the characters, I find that the kind of rigging on the faces is a bit twitchy sometimes. Like their muscle movements are kind of jittery, and it looks a little unnatural sometimes. Except for Aloy. Aloy is always spotless. So.
It's pretty good. Yeah, absolutely. Nice. Cool. All right, well, Matt, over to you. What have you been doing this last week besides the other thing which we're going to chat about?
I've been doing too much. I have had a lot going on. With a little of the free time I actually had, I've put in a lot of time with Armello recently, so I was playing the new clan and everything, and they're great fun.
Nice.
But the main thing I wanted to talk about is I put some time in with a indie game called Overland, which was actually one of my big titles for the year that I was super excited for. So it's this little tiny diorama style XCOM tactics game with this post-apocalyptic kind of setting where these weird alien bug things burrow out of the ground and attack your survivors, basically. And it's sort of like Organ Trail or Oregon Trail, where you're like traveling across the country.
Ah.
And so basically, along the way, you're having to get fuel, you're having to get supplies to survive fights with the bugs. You're finding other survivors. You find dogs, and dogs are fucking awesome because dogs can hold knives and stab people. It's the goose thing all over again. It's great fun. So you basically there's not really a narrative to it. It's basically I've probably done 4 or 5 playthroughs thus far, and you start out on the East Coast United States. You're trying to travel to the West. And there's all these different zones that have like different themes about them and everything.
Death Stranding?
Death Stranding.
Going from east to west.
You do that in Death Stranding, I suppose.
Is Overland a Strand game, Matt? Is that where we're getting to? Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Who knows?
Overstrand?
It's the unofficial tie-in game that nobody told us about. So you start out on the East Coast and you kind of like are in this urban setting. But then when you get to the next area, so after you you're basically traveling along in a car. You always need to have a vehicle to get yourself from point A to point B. You go collect supplies along the way, and then once you get to the end of a zone, you traverse into the next zone. So I've gotten to zone 2 and then horrendously died every single time. Oh. And there's something like 6 or 7 total zones in the game to get to the West Coast. So I have not gotten very far. It is a very challenging game. It like you make a single mistake and the game is just like, aha, and just freaking murders everyone.
Yep, that sounds like XCOM.
Yeah. But it's really fun. It's like this little pocket strategy. And because it's like, it's almost kind of got this roguelite kind of feel to it, because everyone dying and then having to start over is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Because it's based like, I guess I'll just do it again.
So you can't save scum your way through like other games?
You cannot save scum your way through.
Right.
It auto-saves. It auto-saves in some missions. It auto-saves after every single movement you make. Ooh. So you cannot save scum at all. Yeah. And apparently it's on Switch, so I might have that wrong. But this is the perfect game for Switch. I've got it on PC. I kind of wish I got it on Switch though. Yeah. So, yeah, it's great fun though. It's really good fun.
I was just looking at some images a second ago. Visually, it looks very similar to that other indie game that we saw in recent years, Dead Static Drive. Remember that?
Yeah.
Looks quite a bit like that.
Indie games have an aesthetic, and like the low poly thing is really in right now, in the same way that a couple of years back, sprite art was really in.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's just that kind of like darkish, moody lighting, I think, that kind of reminds me of it a lot as well. And the cars sort of being a feature in some of the images I saw, for sure. But yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's good. This will be one of those games that I'll probably end out talking about on and off, because I want to keep on coming back and playing it, but I only play it in like short little bursts, because short little bursts is as far as I get with it before I die.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, shall we all converse about the other thing, the big thing of the week that we've dipped our toes into a little bit, but I think we need some more time to sort of percolate properly. But so a little thing happened at 1 a.m. this morning, which was the release of the big Destiny 2 expansion, Shadowkeep, which we've been quite excited about for a while. So Matt, I suspect that you were like me and Adrian. I get the feeling you might have as well sort of stayed up and attempted to play a bit of it last night, or this morning, I should say. You didn't.
I didn't. So yesterday I ended up working dramatically overtime, and I got home really late, so I collapsed in bed.
Right.
But because I worked overtime, I got today off.
Ah, okay. So. Well, that worked out super good for you then. Yeah.
It did, yes.
Yeah. Adrian, did you bother to stay up, or were you a this morning thing as well?
I did. I stayed up. I had a weird day yesterday where I fell asleep in the middle of the day, which doesn't happen too often to me. And I got about 3 hours sleep in the middle of the day. So I was already pretty wide awake at 1 a.m. So I was sitting there waiting. And then for some reason, it didn't preload properly. And I had to download the whole freaking thing
Oh, no.
at 1 a.m. And I thought I had preloaded, but I must not have done that. So then, luckily, I've got fiber to the home. So it was done by 2.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up jumping on at 2 a.m. and managed to get in for a little bit. And yeah, I just had a quick look around and saw what had changed, and then that was it. And then I went to bed, and I played a bit more today. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially where I got to as well. I had to download a little bit when things went live at 1. Didn't take me quite that long, though. I think I was on by about 1:30-ish. And yeah, so I jumped in, and as soon as I did, I was sort of paying attention to social media at the same time because, I like to be part of the launch sort of, discussion and see what's going on around the world and see all the sort of hype coming through and what people are excited about and what people are testing out and that kind of thing. And the overwhelming theme was that I got super fucking lucky diving through the queue and not actually having problems loading in. Whereas a lot of other people seem to be absolutely stuck in queues of up to tens of thousands, which shocked me because I didn't see any of that.
Yeah,
So,
me neither.
yeah.
When I
There were people getting really salty.
Yeah, when I originally
was it a
jumped on at
regional
2
thing?
a.m. Sorry?
I'd say, was it a regional thing? Was it like the Aussie servers were okay, but all the US folks were struggling or
I don't know,
something?
we're on US servers though, I'm sure. So
Yeah, I'm on the US servers for Destiny.
Mm.
When I jumped on at 2 a.m., I managed to get in after about a 10-minute wait, 15-minute wait. And then I tried to go to bed and couldn't fall asleep and got back on at about 5 a.m. And then I was in a queue of over 13,000 people.
Right.
It told me. So I just went back to bed and was like, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, it's I mean, my opening impressions are pretty light because I've only had a chance to sort of look at all the sort of UI changes and bits and pieces as well. I think there's some really good quality of life stuff they've done with being able to load directly into some activities that you before would have had to actually go down to the planet's surface and sort of go to manually, which is cool. And I like the fact that they split up like a whole bunch of your bounties and your quests now into sort of separate areas, so you can sort of see them a bit more organized, which is really, really good. But the thing I'm really excited about is kind of like the big main quest for the next season, like the key triumphs that are going to lean towards getting those seals and potential sort of, real world rewards that Bungie will no doubt add to their store in the next few weeks. So that stuff's looking pretty good. So I'm very excited about this season. I think they've got a good cadence of content sort of happening every week. It looks like there's something exciting going on in the game almost every single week, which is cool. So I hope they keep the pace up because on paper it looks like they will. So yeah.
I'm going to say for a moment, firstly, as a Destiny 1 player, Shadowkeep is fucking awesome.
Yep.
Because there's so many cool callbacks to Destiny 1, and it's super awesome to be experiencing that stuff again. Second thing, narratively, holy fuck. I'm not that far into the story just yet, but as somebody that cares about Destiny narrative, there's some stuff that they reveal and some stuff that's going on that's just really freaking exciting. And number 3, how much shit have they changed and added in this fucking expansion?
It's pretty good, isn't it?
There's so much stuff. It's just kind of insane how much content they've added. And I'm only getting through the Shadowkeep stuff. That doesn't even say anything for the season's shit that's about to start. There's so much stuff. I don't understand how they've done this. It's actually massively impressive. Yeah, I'm looking forward. I've got you've been invited, Luke, to the Destiny lore breakfast that we've got going with a couple of people.
Oh, I can't wait! I cannot wait for that. There's a lot of good Destiny things happening at PAX, actually.
Yeah, I need to actually finish Shadowkeep's story before we fly off to PAX so that I can rant about that shit.
Yeah, no, it's going to be glorious. I haven't touched any of that new stuff yet, so I'm super keen to work out what's going on. And Adrian, I don't know how you're going to go with it, but you've been watching a bunch of videos lately to catch up on some weird lore stuff, haven't you? So
yeah, I found a 4-hour-long lore video, which I'm about halfway through, done by the channel. I think his name is My Name Is Biff, or I Am Biff.
Yep.
Biff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's some British dude who it narrates the videos in a very kind of lore-ish manner. So he's obviously written a script and is reading sort of like, and then blah 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 blah. It's quite like a smooth delivery. I think he could be a better writer, but considering the amount of work he's put in, it's pretty good. And yeah, to be fair, that lore video has made me enjoy Destiny a lot more. Just understanding a bit more of the story and being able to actually understand who the fuck a lot of these people are, and the place of the different races within the Destiny narrative. Because beforehand, I was like, oh yeah, space turtles, Tyranids, and jackals from Halo. That's all I thought of when I saw the different races. But having watched these lore videos, I'm now like, oh, okay, I understand now why they look like that, why they're called that, why I'm fighting them where I am. You know, it's a shame that I have to find an external source of information for that to occur. But it makes me think of Warhammer in a way, where like you can play Warhammer and you can read the codexes and understand it on one level. But once you sort of start to understand the world as a whole, you start to enjoy it a bit more. Yeah. And I think I'm starting to turn that corner now. I must say, though, the only thing I really want to say about Shadowkeep is I'm in a bit of an opposite situation to you, Matt, where I find the moon really boring so far because I recognize it from Destiny 1. And there is a part of me, like I know that the moon in this expansion is like X times bigger, like big enough to be different enough from the moon in Destiny 1. But I've already like zoomed through a few areas. I'm like, this is the same area from Destiny 1. Like I recognize this area, and I played Destiny 1 many, many years ago. And that, like, I found that really disappointing. I was like, this is dumb. Like, I want a brand new area. Like, I have seen the moon before. And I know people would argue and say, no, you haven't. Just you wait until you get further into the story. Then you'll really see the moon. But I'm not at that point yet. So I'm like, fuck the moon. I'm already bored by the moon. I've only been on the moon for like a couple of hours and I'm already bored of the moon. So I don't know. That probably says more about me than Destiny. The only thing that saves it is dun 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 dun. Moon lobsters. There's moon lobsters. That's the best thing about Shadowkeep. The hive on the moon are red and spiky, and they look like lobsters. And that alone is enough to justify the cost of paying for Shadowkeep.
I kind of want to see that for myself now.
Yeah.
Moon lobsters. That's the best thing about Shadowkeep.
Your whole point about the map, though. The whole point about the map, though, like anybody that tells you, like, oh no, you got to play longer to see the real moon, like they're full of shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Like they will have. They've done the moon thing for the nostalgia trip that all those Destiny 1 players are going to have.
That's what I thought.
And like you have.
Yeah. And for me, I don't like it. For me, I don't like that because I'm not invested in the nostalgia of Destiny. Yeah. Like, I haven't been on board with it long enough to care. So, I mean, I'm in a weird zone where, like, brand new players will like it because they've never seen it before. Veterans will like it because they're going back to an old place. But for someone like me who didn't like Destiny 1 and is coming around to Destiny 2, the moon is, like, the worst possible location because it's like, just reminding me of, like...
The thing you didn't like.
The thing I didn't like, not something I did like.
I think the trick also is the contrast of other recent areas, because the moon being like a fairly grey, brown, sort of reasonably barren area with the exception of like the Red Keep and the other sort of structures that have landed there, compared to somewhere like the Dreaming City, which is pretty much peak beauty when it comes to Destiny locations.
Dreaming City was awesome. Like, I was really engaged with the Dreaming City. Like, it's rare. In fact, more so than any other area in all of Destiny. I was like, man, the Dreaming City's cool. Like, I enjoy playing here. But the moon is like the opposite for me, where I'm like, it's just the moon, which is a weird thing to say, but yeah.
My response to the moon, like, I keep on getting to all these old areas, and I'm like, it's this place, neat. And then I'll like, the number of places that I've walked into, and I've like, this feels like it's been really fucked up. And then I'll look up, and there's like gigantic hole in the ceiling, because it's like, the whole place is getting rattled apart and things are collapsing and all the hive structures are getting destroyed.
It makes me think of Cataclysm, of WoW.
Yeah,
Cataclysm.
it does. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like
comparison.
It really feels like the moon is getting shaken apart. And I love those little details about like, here's all these hive structures, but they're getting fucked. And like, meanwhile, you have the keep and everything off in the distance that is just pristine and just standing there like it's just appeared overnight. But all of these older areas are getting destroyed. It feels like, to me, it's like this neat little narrative detail. I'm going to nerd out for a second here, because the moon was kind of Crota's thing and he's dead, but now his sister has taken over, and so she's gonna make this big fucking gorgeous keep, while all of the shit that was related to Crota's falling apart and being destroyed. So I kind of like that little narrative detail there. But at the same time, I was literally thinking about it while I was driving around, like, man, the moon's really bland. It's a lot of grey.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't blame them for that, because then you have the keep that's really striking on the horizon and everything. But it does feel like coming from Forsaken, where the Dreaming City was so central to that narrative, and even the Tangled Shore, which was just like fucking weird and just lots of like floating rocks all strapped together. The moon is less interesting in comparison to those places, but I still find it interesting.
It's literally a desolate landscape. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
there's only so much there's only so much polishing of a turd they can do.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway,
I have a question about Destiny 2, this new thing. Am I right that every character, if they were below, was it like 750 or whatever, everyone's now like 750 power level as a base?
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
So doesn't that effectively mean that everyone is 0 power level?
yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
So why didn't they
Yeah,
put
I
everyone
know.
down to 0?
well, because people wouldn't like that because they like their numbers, but in principle, like everyone's just set to 0 again. That's weird.
Yeah, it's essentially. I think it's actually a really good move, because they've done a similar thing with recent seasons where they've actually put quests in the game that have allowed people to progress up to the sort of the current content power level, so they can engage in the new content. And compared to a game like World of Warcraft, where like without the addition of the free character boost that they added in a few sort of expansions ago, being left out of all the new content was one of the worst things about the expansions on that game, like back in the day. Like, I remember when I first started playing WoW at Cataclysm time, and like I was seeing all these pictures of this cool new content, all these new areas and these raids and stuff, and I had like 60 plus levels worth of base game to get through before I'd even experience any of that kind of stuff. It was the biggest downer ever, sort of starting off and realizing that I couldn't touch all the new stuff until I put ages of progress into the game. But everyone jumping in at the same level with this, and the big differentiator being the achievements in game and some of the sort of exotic weapon quests that you've completed and gotten some of the more specialist gear, I think is totally fine. I don't feel like other players are kind of cheating to get to where I've gotten, even though I've worked like hard, because I still feel like I've got plenty to show for it compared to them. So yeah.
And the thing is, Christian, like, one thing that hasn't changed about Destiny is that your power level doesn't fucking do anything. Like, the only thing it does is gate off content. Like, it has no real effect on how you shoot things in the game. Like, apart from sometimes you might be a little bit under the recommended power level when you wander into an area where the power level is recommended to be higher, in which case the enemies will be tougher there. But it's very rarely like that they're only a little bit tougher, so you can still do it. Anytime I've wandered into an area like that, you cannot progress, so you just have to go back. So all the power level seems to do is just gate off content. So, like, although
and give you a treadmill.
And give you a treadmill, yeah. So although, yes, everyone is the same power level, and technically people that have been grinding like me for the last couple of months, it was all for naught. It's kind of always been for naught. It's kind of always been like pointless.
Yeah,
I don't know if I agree with that, but anyway.
I don't either. Just simply because, especially, so Shadowkeep has a 900 power level soft cap. So you can reach that, but then you can push your power level higher, which does actually make you more powerful in later content. So when they release like heroic
we're talking about
if
you jump in now, not at the end.
Oh yeah,
like, it might matter at the end, but in Christian's scenario or someone else who's jumping in, if you jump in right now, it literally doesn't matter.
Oh,
like,
totally.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And no one got boosted to 900. No. Everyone got boosted to 750.
Yeah.
So it literally doesn't matter.
What it does for me is it just like you always know that like levels and stats and stuff in games it's just like a way to make you feel good psychologically.
Yeah.
But this is just, it kind of breaks that spell. Like it's like you're always on a treadmill, and treadmills don't actually go anywhere. But this is kind of, to me, it just draws my attention to the fact that it is like, to me, meaningless, because I don't like the grind. I don't like grinding. I don't like I'm not a gamer who's drawn by like getting high stats and things. So it has very little appeal to me, the fact that they've done this.
Yeah, I mean, like, the progression thing with Destiny is what we've sort of said a bit more recently. It's that the appeal is in terms of every time you play the game, you feel like you're progressing. And it's not just about light level. It's about exploration. It's about lore that you're uncovering. It's about weapons that you obtain. It's about like 1,000 different things, and not just your power level. So
yeah, I guess I just still. I mean, I haven't experienced much in my recent journey back to it, but I'm still waiting to see something that's not just me shooting my bullets at aliens and them dying. Like,
I tend to agree with you, Christian, and the reason I do is because only a couple of days ago I hit the 750 cap on in between Forsaken and Shadowkeep, and it was only a few days before Shadowkeep was released. I went away to Tasmania, came back, hit 750, and literally in the 10-minute window after I hit 750, I started enjoying the game less. And like, it just speaks to that psychological treadmill effect, where for people like Luke and Matt, there's plenty of other things in the game, and that's fine for you guys. There's plenty of other things in the game that keep you engaged apart from the light grind. But for me, it really is mostly about the light grind, it turns out, because I've seen the psychological effect it has on me when I stop. The only thing that kept me going was the exotic weapon quests. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have stopped playing.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I find it interesting that like Christian, like, does the game need to be more than shooting stuff and having fun?
It depends. I mean, because it's all about taste, right? Like, if I don't enjoy just the repetitive shooting stuff, then I'm not going to enjoy the game. So
absolutely,
yeah. I'm not saying your fun isn't wrong. I'm just saying for me, I haven't found yet engaging like gameplay that really I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think I can see that. Like, because
I don't think it's like, you may argue this, but I don't think it's very sort of technically challenging, Destiny.
Oh, when it comes to raids, I would definitely disagree.
I would argue that.
Yeah. Raids are not the majority of the game.
Raids are 1% of what you do in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but there's other raid-like activities that sort of fulfill that kind of need as well. Like some of the technically challenging dungeons that we've done to complete certain exotic weapon quests.
But those are fewer in number than raids.
They are, but I also say that some of the PvP style activities are a bit more challenging as well in terms of learning how they work.
I don't like PvP at all, so you can forget that.
No. When I say PvP, I'd include Gambit in that, because that's a PvPvE activity that has a blend of all
that's
things.
something I haven't tried, and I've heard good things about is Gambit, and I haven't tried that yet. So
your issue with Destiny, from what it sounds like, is that Destiny is a power fantasy. And so you don't have those moments where you're having your skill constantly tested in a game like Dark Souls, where you constantly are being pushed to be better. Destiny doesn't do that. And if you never do a raid, you don't ever have that opportunity to get pushed to that higher level where you are being asked to be more than what you currently are. You're kind of just gaining that through getting better guns and getting better gear. And they, in fact, even kind of reference that fact narratively, right? It's just not that kind of game. It's definitely a power fantasy where you feel awesome because you're wiping out massive groups of enemies versus a game where you constantly have to struggle.
See, I get what you're saying. I think that's definitely a part of it. But for me, it doesn't come across as a power fantasy. It comes across as a grind.
Yeah, I agree with you, Christian. Although I'm truly kind of in the middle here, and I agree. And Destiny is not a power fantasy, I don't think, because you never feel powerful. That's one thing that has always been an issue with Destiny 1 and 2, and right up until this point. There is never a point in the game where you become more powerful than the things you're fighting. Like you are always either equal to or less than whatever you're fighting. Like you're never more powerful.
This definitely sounds like again, like the way that you guys are kind of like looking at your games and everything, like more powerful for you means bigger numbers, right? Whereas
more powerful for me means mastery of the game systems.
We'll go with that then. Yeah. Whereas Destiny, like the game makes you feel powerful aesthetically a lot, right? Like you're using big abilities. Like I freaking use my weeb beam as a warlock, and I feel fucking awesome and powerful using it because it feels super powerful. But mastery, yes, like you don't really get that until you go and do raids and that sort of thing. At which point, like the endorphin rush for overcoming like a puzzle or a boss in a raid is freaking amazing high. But you can still get that experience. It's just, it's not the kind of game that you like, basically, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I maybe not for Christian, but I think you are correct in saying that for me it's numbers. I think it is for me. And that's just from, I think, the Diablo grind, like where it's literally numbers, like you're literally grinding for numbers. So I think you are correct in saying for me that it's numbers, maybe not for Christian.
Yeah, I think Adrian and I, we both know our taste in games quite well, each other. And I can see exactly how the numbers appeal to you. And that's not something that draws me. That's just something that is just inherent in our gaming DNA.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing that draws me to Diablo, that draws me to Warframe, that draws me to, XCOM in some ways, and other games where, you grind for ages to get the piece of gear that then tips you over the edge to the point where you're dominating until you're no longer dominating, and then you grind again. That's my ideal grind, like loot grinder game. And Destiny luckily has enough going on where it doesn't need to fit that mold exactly, but ideally for me it would. It doesn't have to because there's plenty of other stuff that I enjoy, but when it comes to like a grindy loot game, that's what I like.
See, I hate grindy games.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, and like people calling Destiny grindy like surprises me because I don't feel like I grind in it, but you can totally grind in Destiny. I would say like if Christian was freaking loved Destiny raids, and he could still play Destiny and really enjoy it because he could just do raiding all the time and have that high skill cap of like trying to get even better at the raiding content.
And there are enough raids now that you can spend almost all your time doing that. There's heaps of them, yeah.
We've been talking about Destiny for a while, so we should move on soon. But I do want to say that I think part of why it seems like a grind to me is because I don't know the lore or the story. So I'm not invested in that. So the activities that I'm doing, there's appeals there to people who actually know what the fuck's happening. That means that they're not focusing on the grind, like to me, like, or that it's not a grind to them. But if you're having fun engaging with the story, it's not a grind to you. But if I'm just doing shooting again, then it's a grind to me.
Yeah, I could get that.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing I just wanted to say before we move off the topic in terms of new content and the nostalgia factor that we touched on before, one thing that I think slid under the radar for a lot of people because it hasn't been sort of mentioned explicitly in a lot of places is that they've put in this really cool thing for people who are starting new characters in the game. And that is that there's a new intro mission that wasn't in Destiny 2 before, which is taken straight out of the beginning of Destiny 1. So the very beginning mission in Destiny 1, which is when you sort of wake up and you do the Cosmodrome area, that is now in Destiny 2. They've recreated it for Destiny 2 for people who kick off new characters as a bit of a sort of an easy step into the world, which I think is just a really cool thing and a good step back in time to those days of yore. So
Cosmodrome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Super exciting.
It's in the walls.
Yeah, and not that I wasn't going to start a third alt anyway, but now I have an additional reason to do so because I want to go back and see that content again. So, yeah. So there you go. Anyway.
Lobster.
Yeah.
Also, I want to mention really quick before you continue on, it hit 208,000 concurrent players on Steam earlier this morning. And it's currently at 158,000 at an American downtime. So that's pretty freaking great.
Yeah.
Like, this has added a lot of people to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone who thought there were going to be a few server hiccups when they released a free-to-play plus new content were kidding themselves. Anyway, so we should dive into some news.
Now it's time to hear some gaming news. Time for some gaming news.
All right, I'm going to kick off news tonight because one thing I want to chat about is something we spoke briefly about in recent episodes when we had Mr. Brandon Pierce on chatting about everything Minecraft. So he was over this weekend, just gone, of course, at Minecon, doing some presentations there, which is very cool. I caught his work and it was a very interesting panel on games design that he was part of. But Minecon, of course, was super exciting for a whole bunch of other reasons. And there's quite a bit of news that came out this weekend concerning Minecraft. So I'm just going to quickly whiz through some of the top items. Minecraft itself, some new additions to that, which got sort of revealed. Something that has been sort of shown recently that's getting added to the game is they're putting bees in the game, which is just a cool, super random thing. So that involves a few different blocks and bits and pieces that are being added.
Bees?
Yeah, you can have, there's like literally beehives that'll appear on certain types of trees now in different biomes, and you can literally smoke the bees out of the hives to harvest the honey and all that sort of stuff. And they've added honey blocks to the game. The honey block is the coolest thing because this is actually a block that performs differently to other blocks where you can't run or jump on it. So when I think about ways that I could create sort of challenging obstacles and I actually like to create mini dungeons in Minecraft. Like I've actually, made obstacle courses within castles and things like that for my friends to sort of log in and try and sort of play through, almost like a video game level creator kind of thing. And a block like that actually has gameplay limitations attached to it actually excites me a bit because you can do some really creative stuff with it. So that's really cool. But they did a couple of other things. They've sort of said that the next big update they're going to be doing to the game is actually going to be the Nether, which is great because that area hasn't had much love given to it for a while. So they're actually going to be adding a bunch of stuff to the Nether. The Nether's kind of at the moment mostly populated by mobs called zombie pigmen, and they're going to be adding regular pigmen to the Nether. So that's going to be interesting, and like actual pigs, it looks like. So a whole sort of other ecosystem around these creatures that somehow get zombified. So that's kind of cool.
Are you saying pigmen?
Pigmen, yeah, like pigmen. They're adding to the Nether. Yeah,
pigmen, not pigmen.
How do you say it?
Pigmen. Pigmen.
Pigmen, yeah.
They're half man, half pig.
That's exactly what I was saying. What did you think I was
You're
saying?
saying pigmen.
Pigmen.
Like pigment.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
like Pikmin.
No, pigmen. Like Pigmen.
Pigmen.
Yeah.
Pigmen.
I'm just saying it fast. Yeah, exactly. And there's going to be these weird sort of fungus forests, which they're adding as well, which are going to be made out of netherwort, which is a type of fungus that's already in the nether in the game. And that all looks really interesting. So that's going to spruce up an area that otherwise looks, not super visually appealing. And speaking of that, they also ran a poll of 3 other areas of the game that people might want them to update. And I think the poll was between swamps, badlands, which are kind of like the dry, arid, deserty areas, and mountains. And they sort of showed a few of the things that they might consider doing if depending on which one gets voted for. And the general public voted for them to do changes to mountains, which I think was definitely the right call, because one of the things that happens in Minecraft when you spawn into an area that's very, very mountainous is that it doesn't seem like there's a lot there. Like it's a whole lot of blocks of stuff that kind of obscure your vision of the world, and it seems to more just get in the way than anything else. But what they're talking about doing is adding things like different types of snow, mountain goats, completely upgrading the topography of mountains in the game to look a lot more visually appealing and have sort of more sort of weird and wonderful shapes that still look natural but add a lot to sort of look at in the game. So yeah, that's stuff that'll be coming over the next year, which I'm quite excited about, which is cool. Other stuff they spoke about, there was a whole bunch of information on Minecraft Earth, which is the new sort of augmented reality game or mixed reality game that's going to be coming out on mobiles very soon. So it looks like the first sort of beta waves of that are going to be coming up this month in various different countries. I think Australia's going to have to wait until early next year, I think, perhaps. But that's going to be going live real soon. There's a new Minecraft board game that's coming out, which actually looks kind of cool. So check that if you're interested in that sort of thing. And a bit more on that Minecraft Dungeons game, which is going to be coming out probably next year, which is the Diablo-esque one. Which looks to build upon the Minecraft theme, but in much more of a sort of running around in a dungeon and sort of looting kind of game. So that looks cool too. But if you're a fan of anything Minecraft, you should hop on and see what they're adding, because that's a for one kind of game franchise, that's a shitload of news. I think that's a lot of stuff that people who are into that kind of thing will be quite keen for. So
It's a whole convention's worth of news.
absolutely, yeah. Oh, and one thing I totally forgot: they're adding a new block, which is literally a target. So you can add a target block, which you can shoot with arrows and stuff, and it actually emits like a redstone signal. So you can use it for weird and wacky contraptions. So you can, get people
that's
to
cool.
shoot
That's
at it
cool,
and
yeah.
turn things on. Yeah, I like that a lot. That's really, really cool. So yeah, that is Minecon 2019.
I think it's really impressive just how much Microsoft has kept that game going.
It's the biggest game in the world for a reason. It's because it has gotten this much love. What is it, like 12 years on now? I think we're up to. I lose track. So yeah.
And they've seemed to manage to not piss people off too much. Like it sounds like they've done a lot to the game, and they've never really kind of fucked things up too bad. So that's pretty good.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's all you can hope for in life.
Yeah, that's right.
Just not to fuck things up.
Too bad. All right. Well, speaking of things that some people think have been fucked up, their new Pokemon game. There was some new details. I think it was from Game Informer have like a cover story coming up, and they've really revealed some of the information from that story. And there's a few things I want to just rattle off that have been announced, like auto saving for Pokemon. That's a new thing. They've always had manual saving before, so auto saving's a first for the series.
Finally.
Yeah.
Do you think there could be any downsides to auto saving?
I can tell you one immediately. It's going to stop all those people who like to reset their game when they're trying to capture legendaries to try and get the perfect IVs and stuff. Yeah,
and shinies. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Which I think is actually a good
apparently-
thing. So I think they should stop that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Apparently, autosave you can turn off.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Hooray.
yeah, that is. So yeah, that's part of it.
Well,
So
ignore everything I just said
won't
then.
Stop that. There's also no HMs, which is fine. I think they might have had that in Sun and Moon.
Yeah,
maybe?
they removed them
Yeah.
about a generation ago, I think.
They said there's 18 gyms, so there's normally eight gyms.
That's
so,
huge.
Yeah, that's huge. They're divided into a minor and major league, and so 9 of the gyms in one version of the game are the major league, and then in the other version of the game, those same 9 are the minor league. So they're all in both games, but they're represented differently. So you can imagine that the minor leagues will. Minor gyms are probably much quicker to get through, or like less challenging. I don't know, but it's interesting to see how that actually looks.
It's a cool way to do it between the different versions, I guess.
Yeah, they've made XP share like a default thing now, apparently. So it's not even an item; it's just on by default. I know that there are some people who liked, having to send their Pokemon out to the front and then switching them back to get some XP. But yeah.
Again, the only complication with that is people who are trying to advance their Pokemon by only attacking certain types of creatures to increase their
That's the EV training.
Yeah.
That's not because that's not based on experience accumulated. That's based on fainting Pokemon.
I do remember the XP share still impacted that though. So the EVs were shared amongst Pokemon in your party if XP share was a factor.
Oh yeah, the EVs themselves were right. Okay.
Yeah, so you just got to be careful with that.
That's an old system though. That hasn't existed for the last couple of games.
Okay.
I don't know about that, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I've done it. Like I have a team of perfect IV Pokemon. So I've been through that entire process many times.
They also revealed not the details of something, but they said that there'll be a way for you to fight with like your favorite Pokemon, regardless of how kind of strong they are. So in previous games, it's been annoying where if you really liked Bulbasaur but not Venusaur, then you're like handicapping yourself by stopping him from evolving because Venusaur's just flat out stronger. But there's a quote where they've said, the article says the developers of Game Freak were vague about it, but there's a new feature that will erase that necessity, being to evolve your Pokemon, and make it easier to fight with the Pokemon you have a connection with from day one. So I don't know exactly what form that'll take.
It's like the whole Ash Pikachu thing where he doesn't ever evolve it to Raichu, but it's still the most like kick-ass Pokemon in the entire
it's exactly
show.
like that.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's even just been like single evolution Pokemon that have just never been as as strong as like multi-evolution Pokemon. And
Like
so if there's-
Dunsparce.
Like Dunsparce, yeah, exactly. So if there's some way that Dunsparce he can carry you as much as your Charizard carries you, then that'd be fun.
Finally.
Yeah.
I think everyone's going to get carried by Surfetched anyway, so...
So that was basically it. Just a few more details of the game. I think it all sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good to me. There's there's something coming up on the 4th, isn't there, or the 5th? There's some Pokemon news. Is that coming up? Oh, I thought I.
You tell me,
I heard
Adrian.
there was something. Oh, no, I just thought I saw that there was like a video or a stream or something, or some Pokemon
might be like
news
what they did
coming out
with
on the 4th.
Smash, where they do like little reveals in the way of like small direct like presentations in the lead up. Maybe
I
just
think
showing
what
off new
we all-
gameplay.
I think what we all really want to know is what are they going to offer us to counter Surfetched? What is going to be
Oh, the Shield
You know-
exclusive one.
what's going to be
Yeah.
the exclusive that could possibly compete with such a handsome bird?
Because I was going to go for Shield, but Surfetched has swung me to Sword, so there does need to be a strong counterweight.
Yeah, he's swinging everyone around to his team, I think. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll still go with Shield. I'll go with the game that everyone hates.
Gives you more power in trading.
See, Matt,
Exactly
this,
right,
This is
yeah.
why I, as a human being, bred twice, so that I have two children that I can have one has each one, so that I can just poach what I need from both.
I thought you were going to say this is why I bred twice, so I could trade one of my children.
I was going to say, what are your IVs of your children?
Yeah, they haven't been EV trained effectively yet, so yeah, we'll get
See,
there.
I thought the direction this was going was basically being like, okay, so clearly Sword is the vastly superior game, so I'm going to give it to my favorite son.
No.
Okay. Well, speaking of things that sound good, this doesn't. Because Troy Baker wasn't in Borderlands 3. There's been a bunch of weird shit going on with this whole conversation recently. Apparently Troy Baker was asked at an event why he didn't do Borderlands 3, and he kind of said previously that he wanted to, but basically wasn't able to. He elaborated and basically said that Gearbox wouldn't come to the table and hire him because of his union background. He's part of SAG-AFTRA. To which Gearbox basically replied and said, "Oh, Trey's great, and we're really glad that we basically made him what he is today. But the Texas law, we can't not hire him because of a union background. So we wish him all the best." So basically, like this really weird freaking response. And then SAG-AFTRA replied and basically essentially just said that Gearbox is full of shit.
Yeah.
It's really fucking weird. Like, this whole back and forth has been bizarre.
Now, do you know what I find the weirdest about this? And I'm going to have to check this to make sure I'm 100% correct. But to my knowledge, the only voice part he's done for Borderlands is that of Reese, who's actually the character that first came in during Tales from the Borderlands, which was, of course, a Telltale game, not directly made by Gearbox. I think they were consulted on it, but I don't know if they had a core part in the production beyond sort of being advisors to the world and the background and the setting and signing off on certain aspects of that. So it's not like Troy Baker was even doing voiceover directly for Gearbox. He was doing it for Telltale. So I find that super weird. But
What's with that line then, them saying that they made him?
I don't know. I
What's
think
that
they're just
referring to?
delusional. Is what I think. The other thing too is that Randy Pitchford came out like a few months back when this whole story began about like Troy and Gearbox sort of contradicting each other with reasons as to why he didn't reprise the voice role of Reese. And Randy said at the time, and I don't have the exact quote, but the gist of what he said was that the role of Reese in Borderlands 3 was sufficiently different that it didn't matter that they didn't use the same voice actor. And none of us knew exactly what that meant at the time because we hadn't seen the game yet and we hadn't seen how Reese factors into the story. But I can say definitively now, having played through just about all of the content that Reese is in, that Randy is full of fucking shit.
As always, Randy Pitchford
Reese
is just
is
a pathological
massively
fucking
in the
liar.
game. Yeah, he's a massive character in the game. Like he appears as a holographic image for a good part of it, but not all of it. You actually do run into him in person, minus spoilers for anyone who hasn't played through Borderlands 3 in its entirety yet. But and like there is absolutely no reason why they shouldn't have attempted to use the same voice actor because it's the same fucking character. So yeah.
But like, it gets weirder, right? So like, the claim that Troy is making is that he didn't work with them because they wouldn't work with somebody that wanted a union contract. But then Ashley Birch is in Borderlands 3, and she's also part of SAG-AFTRA.
Correct.
And she voices Tiny Tina.
Yep.
So, like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Like, it's really weird. And I was reading this whole thing where apparently people that are members of SAG-AFTRA can basically choose to not have a union contract when they actually sign up with somebody. And so it's maybe what happened was Troy basically said, it is a requirement that you sign my union contract. Whereas Ashley Birch decided not to do that, which SAG-AFTRA had actually called out as like, that's a bad idea because then that's to the detriment of everybody that is a SAG-AFTRA member, right?
Now,
Yeah.
Can you clarify for me? SAG-AFTRA is that guy in High School Musical, right?
SAG-AFTRA is the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists.
Okay.
Yeah.
This whole time I thought we were
also
talking about
that guy.
SAG.
But also the other thing, Adrian, I think you're also
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, cool.
No, the Ashley Birch thing is even weirder because if you remember when the big sort of SAG-AFTRA strikes were going on a couple of years ago, that actually led to a few famous voice actors not being able to reprise their roles for particular games that were in development at that time. One of the big stories happening was Ashley Birch not being able to reprise her role in Life is Strange.
Yeah.
So for the pre-sequel, they actually had to get the character she was playing, I think it was Ellie. No, not Ellie. I'm getting it wrong. Chloe, done by somebody else. So yeah, it was.
The lesson is just get one voice actor to do every voice in every video game.
Yeah, Peter
Nolan
Dinklage.
North.
Just give it all to Peter Dinklage.
No, it's Nolan North.
No, hang on.
person you were
This is
talking about.
exactly reinforcing the point. Because if you're going to go to someone to do all of that, like universally across the board, it's either going to be Nolan North or it's going to be Troy Baker at this point, and both of them are fucking unionized. So
Just create a synthesizer using their voices. There's enough material.
yeah, that's true. You probably pull enough samples by now.
Did you guys hear that Troy Baker is going to be the new voice of Garfield?
What? Are you?
Are you serious?
Are you being serious?
I was going to say, I was like, that's a funny joke. Wait, hang on.
The thing is, I would have believed it too because
Yeah, I would have.
yeah, the dude's got an
He hates
impressive range.
Mondays.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's all super weird. Yeah. But anyway, I think that just goes further to the whole Gearbox thing. I don't know if anybody really trusts anything that Randy Pritchard says.
No, fuck yeah, I do not believe Gearbox in this case. I would wager that Troy's probably correct. And maybe Ashley actually had a union signed contract because she had to deal with a different lawyer representing Gearbox. Who knows? Who the fuck knows? But I'm inclined to believe Troy because what does he have to gain from lying about it? So
Yep. Exactly. Cool. All right. Well, anyway, that is a bit of news, but let's dive into our main topic for tonight, which is the first of a new series that we're doing. So, kind of excited about this. Christian, I want to throw to you to kick this one off. So, the maiden voyage into the realm of Party Stream of the Month. So, what are we doing, man?
So, yes, Party Stream of the Month. So, this is replacing our Party Game of the Month. Last night, as of recording time, Adrian and I streamed Dead Space 3 on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/partyloaded. We played it for 2.5 hours, and Luke hung out in the stream. Matt was unfortunately preoccupied. And yeah, Adrian and I played through Dead Space 3, and this is kind of replacing the monthly party game that we used to do, where we're going to chat about our thoughts on Dead Space 3, like we used to do with our party game. But yeah, we're turning it into a monthly stream. So there's kind of broadening the content that we're producing there, giving our listeners another way of engaging with us and engaging with our material. And I think it was pretty fun. Did you have fun last night, Adrian?
I did, but I have to admonish Matt for daring to leave us alone with Luke during a stream.
I did feel like I needed a proper adult.
It was on brand though, because on the couch that I was sitting on to just hurl like abuse at you two, there was a big patch of dead space. So,
So this is what we had to deal with,
This is
Matt,
what we
the
had to deal with
entire
last
time.
night. Is these awful the
guys,
gravity puns. The
guys,
gravity puns.
Damn.
why do you think I didn't turn off?
You don't even have a job.
Yeah, okay. I think I know what I'm going to be doing next stream. Sorry, I have to teach a uni class.
Hey, for real, I did actually have. It wasn't a uni class, so you know how I I mispronounced it when I did the quiz. I called it Osu. It's Os. We had the developer of Os over, and he was doing a talk at the uni I teach at. And we had like a room filled with like 40 odd people that were listening to his talk, and I had to babysit. So
fair enough. Oh well. I did have a good time, Christian. A good enough time, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of settled on Dead Space 3 because Chris and I had both subscribed to Origin Access in order to play Battlefield 4, which we haven't played in a while, but I noticed that Dead Space 3 was on the list there. So I thought, hey, that might be fun. We could get a bit of co-op gaming going because that's always good for a laugh.
It's pretty old now. It came out in 2013, so it's good, good 6 years old.
And it feels it. It feels old.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the first thing you notice about the game is that it hasn't. I don't think it's aged particularly well, and there's a few sort of clunky interface issues I find with the game, and it doesn't quite have the snap and polish of the co-op experience that you might be expecting. Like because Dead Space 3 was, from as far as my knowledge, made to be a co-op experience, you would think that it would be a little more, I don't know, finely tuned, a bit more responsive in some of its controls and its feedback to the player. That might be my main gripe with it, is that I don't know, I kind of felt like anytime I was shooting aliens, I wasn't really having much of an impact on the world around me. I felt I was just kind of like sliding through the game. It's hard to articulate.
I definitely felt that way too. So just for like most listeners probably know what Dead Space is. It's spooky space horror game. So I think you'd played 1 and 2. Is that right, Adrian?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
and I played 1, and I really enjoyed Dead Space 1. And what I enjoyed about it is the claustrophobia and the kind of oppressive atmosphere and the isolation of it. Yeah. And maybe my memory has been distorted by time, but I thought I remembered it being more, the pace being slower and the combat being more precise. So it's Dead Space is famous for the dismemberment system. So a lot of the guns that you use shoot like either a horizontal or vertical kind of beam that can sever the limbs of these necromorph aliens. And you kind of use that to shoot their legs off and disable them, or shoot their arms off and stop them like swinging at you, that sort of thing. And I felt like in Dead Space 1 at least, that was more responsive and kind of kinetic feeling. Like I felt like it was more more punchy. And in Dead Space 3, it felt floaty and kind of airy, and it didn't feel good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think so. I mean, for those who are completely unfamiliar, it's basically like Resident Evil in space. It's kind of the best way to think about it. And so, in that same kind of vein, the Dead Space 1 and 2 definitely had far more of a horror vibe to it. And yeah, but in comparison, Dead Space 3 it just feels less precise. And I think a big part of it, as I think I mentioned during the stream, is that by the very fact of having another person accompany you everywhere you go, it is just less scary. It's less tense. It's less immersive because it was not very immersive to begin with because we were just sort of acting like dickheads the whole time. But
that's what people do when they play online games, right?
That's true.
They act like dickheads.
Yeah.
No one's like doing the fake press conference kind of like real world chatter where everyone's like, okay, I'm going through this door now, guys.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, having played 1 and 2, it's definitely like everything you said is absolutely true. That they're both slower, they're both more deliberate, they're both darker, more claustrophobic, more like scarier, more tense. All of that is true of the first 2 Dead Space games in comparison to 3. So, and I mean, I guess it's that trade-off where they were trying to go for something different. It would seem, and I mean, I still had fun. There are certain mechanics in the game that kind of make it fun, like stomping everything in sight. There's the first 2 Dead Space games, because you can use that dismember mechanic to cut off the legs of the enemies that you fight. Often they're prone and crawling toward you, so your character can actually stomp the ground in front of you to kill and disable enemies that are on the ground. And that has been common all the way through all the Dead Space games.
And it's super crunchy and satisfying feeling.
Very-
Because
yeah,
you're
it's very-
wearing
very-
like this like armored exosuit with like mag boots, and you're just like crunching the ground. It's all
Yeah,
You certainly have to stomp a lot, though. It's not like a one clean kill. It's like repeated mushing, like you've got a tub full of grapes in front of you and you're making wine out of the dead.
That is true, yeah. It's very kinetic feeling. But what it means is that Christian and I spent a lot of time in elevators. And when you're stuck in an elevator waiting to load the next area, what are you going to do but stomp? So we, engaged in our own rendition of the famous Broadway production of Stomp,
Really? Oh wait.
but with far less rhythm and far less enjoyable music. Would stomp our way through the game.
It was definitely fun, but I think that the fun I had from it was playing through it with you. And I don't actually feel like going back to it.
No.
To be honest,
I don't give a shit about playing it again. Unless you said to me, "Let's go back and play it again," I wouldn't play it again. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say. So, like, I was jumping in real quick before you get too far ahead. Like, I played Dead Space 1 and 2 as well, and you're right. The trajectory of those games, like, even 2 compared to 1 was less scary and more of an action game.
Yeah.
And then 3 is just basically an action game with horror elements.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I want to know if you guys got to the cool parts of the multiplayer.
Oh.
No, I guess not. We didn't experience anything
Super cool.
that I'd call like creative or innovative as far as the multiplayer went.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I have to decide
Spoil us on it then, for the sake of the discussion, because we're not going to go back. So just spoil us on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically later on, so I had been kind of dropping hints before that we should try to get both of your screens, because there comes a point where one of the characters starts having hallucinations.
Oh.
And you will see things that the other player does not see.
Oh.
And it's really fucking great, because like there's this whole section where like I believe it's like the soldier dude, not the guy from the original games, but
Carver.
The wannabe Wesker?
Yes. Yeah. So he starts having all of these hallucinations, which seem to be like tied in with his backstory, where he sees like nutcrackers and shit around the world. And there's a whole ton more scary jump scares with him that you will be freaking out, and the other player will be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because there's nothing going on for them.
That does sound amazing.
That does sound good.
It is really
Yeah.
cool. It's a really fucking cool mechanic, and they don't introduce it early enough in the game.
Yeah, fair enough.
And that doesn't happen in Dead
interesting.
Space 1 and 2? It's just a 3 thing?
No, so Dead Space 3 is the only one that's multiplayer.
Oh, of course.
So there are. I remember there being some hallucinations in Dead Space 1, but without that asymmetry, asymmetry sounds like the kind of cool appeal.
There was,
It was the cool part of the game, definitely.
Yeah, right. There was one area of the game where we did have a really cool activity where we were in zero gravity and our faces and crotches lined up exactly, and we managed to have a bit of a 69 in zero
That was
gravity.
our private moment, Adrian.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
your
mechanic.
private moment that you clipped and shared to everybody.
That was my favorite part, followed by a laughing fit on the other end of the line.
And Christian checking the heart monitor that he was wearing for that exact express purpose.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Oh, when I watched that clip, I was like, oh my god. So I recently bought a Fitbit which has some heart monitor on it.
Oh yeah.
And now I feel like I need to like find some way to get my heart rate onto the stream when I play. Like I need to play Alien Isolation. I want to, and I suck with horror games because I get terrified so easily, and they'd be hilarious to have on screen.
Oh, so you need an app that'll actually put the number on screen. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That'd be
I think
so good.
Yeah, I think I've seen that done before. It's definitely possible.
Okay, we're gonna have to look
that'd
into
be
that,
great.
guys. I'm all on board with that. Yeah.
I think that, Adrian, you mentioned that you feel like it doesn't hold up that well, the game, to 2019 standards. But
yeah.
I feel like graphically there are some moments out in space that look quite nice. Like the
that's true. I agree
zero-G
with
stuff
that.
looks quite nice.
No, that's a good point. Anytime when we were out like in the literal vacuum of space, that was cool.
Yeah.
Like there's not many and maneuvering in your exosuit felt really. You do feel like an astronaut, which was really cool.
Yeah.
I guess it was just the mainly the cutscenes that stand out in my mind as being really ugly.
Yes. So the cutscenes, some of the character designs too. There was that kind of awkwardly sexualized woman with the like sparkling clean breasts for no reason.
Yeah. I mean, I quite enjoyed that, but I'm glad we got to share it with our watchers. But
Yes.
no, that was odd. That was a really strange artistic choice to like in the middle of a creepy like Cronenberg space horror game to have this character in like the thinnest of skin tight, like V-neck, huge cleavage shirts, who had clearly just been through some horrible shit, but she was like in a pristine, sexy, sort of outfit. That
Very
was
strange.
That was an odd decision, I guess.
Yeah. It's that latex,
Probably
man. You
very
can wipe it
deliberate.
clean real easy.
I maybe we also didn't get far enough into the game, but I found the weapon variety disappointing. So the Dead Space 3, unlike the first two, has this whole emphasis on weapon crafting, where there's different like components that you sort of jam together to make different combinations. But we didn't really, I think, get into the meat of that system. I did go and read some reviews of the game from when it came out of curiosity, and reviews seemed to be quite favorable towards that, saying that there were some like interesting weapons that you could kind of custom design. So that might have been a consequence of us not getting far enough, but I found the weapons quite bland.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, I think it was fine. But yeah, and anyone sort of on the fence, I'd sort of steer them away from Dead Space 3, I think.
So I feel like we've got to offer a bit of perspective, sort of watching from the outside, because obviously I wasn't hands on with the gameplay like you guys were, but I saw everything that you were doing, and I think I picked up on most of the important stuff as far as the gameplay mechanics and the narrative goes. But I'm actually surprised that universally, I think I had a better time enjoying watching what was going on than maybe you both did playing it, because I was quite excited to actually play this game after I'd seen you both do it, because it looked really fun. Yeah, absolutely. I thought the environments looked cool. I thought that, yes, the game did look a bit dated, but nowhere near as dated as I expected it to be fair. Like, for a 2013 game, I thought it actually looked pretty good for given how old it is now.
I think the main problem I have with the game is that there were several times where Christian and I literally said, all right, that's enough of that, where's the bad guys?
Yeah, that's true. The pacing was a bit weird.
It happened non-stop, where like the pacing was just all over the place.
Yeah, pacing was very strange.
But I think, again, that's a product of the fact that it was multiplayer. And I think that the comparison you made to like the horror being impacted by the fact that multiplayer had been added on this game compared to the other two was a really appropriate one, because when we compare that again to Resident Evil, like you did early on, if we were to take, say, Res Evil 2, like even the Res Evil 2 remake, and imagine what that game would be like if you were able to play simultaneously with both Leon and Claire, like, I totally understand the feel of that game would be vastly different in terms of the suspense and horror.
Completely, yeah.
And this is the same thing. Yeah.
But the difference is that this game is crafted as a multiplayer experience. So you can't excuse pacing issues because there is no other way to play it.
No, I agree. Yeah.
It was definitely pushed, like the co-op was a big part of the push for the game. Like, so the fact that the co-op damaged the game, in my view, I think is a big knock against it, because that's one of the things they were sort of targeting with the design.
Here's the other comparison I'm going to make, which I think is probably a much closer one in terms of how Dead Space 3 has opened up a bit, and it's not as claustrophobic, and it's more of an action game compared to the earlier installments, which were more horror focused. To me, this is exactly like what they did with the Metro series. So Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light were very much those sort of, in tunnels, like claustrophobic horror games with, nowhere near as much focus on the story. It was much more about the suspense and the experience of fighting these creatures right up close in your face, where, there's maximum terror involved. And by the time it got to Metro Exodus, it's very much opening that game up and expanding the world. And there's a lot more sandbox areas, and the horror elements have been pushed to the side in favor of making it much more of a sort of, open environment action game. So I think this is almost the exact same transition, and I can understand why it jars with you given the expectations that playing the first two would have given you. So
I think Resident Evil itself is also a good comparison for that as well.
True.
Like 1, 2, and 3 were strict survival horror games, tank controls, fixed camera, and then 4 was kind of bridging the gap towards an action game, and then Resident Evil 5 and 6 were very action heavy.
Yeah.
And there was quite a lot of fan backlash against that, and then they went back to more survival horror-y for 7 just in first person. And then the RE2 remake's been so popular as well. So
Yeah, totally.
I feel like Dead Space, not that it's going to probably get sequels anytime soon because Visceral shut down and EA doesn't seem to have any plans with doing anything with the IP. But if Dead Space did come back, I'd like to see them follow that Capcom trajectory and go back to the roots of the franchise and
Absolutely.
and go back to that.
I agree because I really enjoyed 1 and 2. Like I thought they were great. So it'd be great to play a Dead Space reboot or Dead Space 4 or something where it gets back to creepy space horror.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, also, overall thoughts, mixed opinions on whether you'd recommend it or not. It sounds like you'd recommend 1 and 2 over 3, generally.
I'd recommend playing it with a friend. That's what I'd recommend.
Yeah, I'd recommend playing with a friend, and I would just like to say as well, like, it's a perfectly like serviceable game. Like my problems with the game aren't anything to do with it being like buggy or like ugly or balanced poorly. Like I think that it's a fine game. It's just I found it quite milquetoast. Like, but it's fine. Like it's a decent game, but it's just not. Yeah, it wasn't exciting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Made for a fun stream at least. I think that's something we can say we got out of it at the very least. So, yeah.
Yeah. If you want to avoid horrible puns, don't invite Luke to be involved when you play Dead Space 2.
I was just trying to add to the horror. Anyway.
Yeah, well, it was horrible.
Nice. All right, well, anyway, contrary to how we used to run this, where we had like a list submitted by listeners that we would pick randomly from, we're taking a lot more control with Party Stream of the Month so we can kind of curate the experience a bit more closely. And to that end, have we got agreements on what we're going to do for next month? Because I know we've got a suggestion on the table. Are you guys happy with that? I'm pretty happy with...
I've seen that, Matt, what's the name of the game you want to play?
It's called Hypnospace Outlaw.
I've never heard of that game.
All right, so let's have the elevator pitch. What the hell is this thing?
Okay, so Hypnospace Outlaw is basically you are a website enforcer and you're basically having to enforce the law on all of these shitty websites from the 90s.
Enforce the law?
Yes. And everybody, it's like this alternate reality where everybody to get on the internet has to wear this headband, so it's kind of a virtual reality experience. And yeah, every single website is fucking garbage. It looks like a GeoCities website, just a total mess. And your whole responsibility is like this Papers, Please-esque type enforcer where you're basically saying, hey, this is copyright material on your website, and you flag people for their shitty website, like using a weird duck gif that's actually like a copyrighted character.
Is this a game or a job?
Are you getting sort of your like dirty work?
Is this your new job?
No. I wish it was. I mean, it looks hilarious. But
Cool.
No, it's definitely a video game.
Is it single player, multiplayer?
Single player.
Okay.
All right. So we'll have to craft an environment where we can have a spectator situation looking at you doing this weird GeoCities enforcement job thing.
So you haven't played it before, Matt?
I have not played it before.
Okay,
It's
cool.
been on my list of things that I have always wanted to play. And this seems like a good opportunity to basically say, hey, I have an excuse to play it now, so.
Nice. All right. Okay,
I've been looking for an excuse to watch Matt play by himself, so this will be good.
Nice. Well, it's perhaps a slightly lighter one as well, given the month of craziness we've got ahead. So,
Oh, yeah.
I think it's probably a good one. And I'm actually going to be on the lookout at PAX for some potential good future party stream games too, because I'm sure there'll be some good ones in the PAX Rising section that we can maybe take a look at. So, yeah. All right. Well, stay tuned for some news of a Hypnospace Outlaw stream then, I guess, coming up in the near future.
After PAX, that's when it will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Towards the end of the month. So the idea is we're going to still be running the show topics as much on the first episode of every month as we can, and keep up the sort of rotation that we had enjoyed before with the party game sort of schedule. So there you go. So yeah, speaking of PAX, we have some minor disruptions coming up to our usual recording schedule in the coming weeks. So next week, of course, is Melbourne International Games Week, and Matt and I will be departing on an airplane on the weekend to head over for that. So we're going to be gone for a full week. And we've decided that not that we don't trust Christian and Adrian not to burn everything down around 8 years while we're gone, but it's a good opportunity to have a brief breather. And we're going to have 1 week without our regularly scheduled show. But what we are going to put up in the meantime is Matt and I are going to do some recording on site with some of our friends from Pixel Sift, who you may recognize from the past. We've done some sort of joined forces episodes with them at PAX and release that as content later on, where we get to chat about some of the fun stuff going on the show floor and observations of the show and what's hot and what's not sort of stuff. So we'll drop that as content in the break instead. Which will be a shorter episode, but a bit more themed around the event, and we'll be back to our regular schedule the week following. So 1 week off from regular Party Loaded, some content in the meantime, and we'll be back the week after that with no doubt a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. So look forward to that. Yeah, cool. But in the meantime, you'll be able to catch if you are happening to go to GCAP. Matt will be giving a talk there, which I believe is on indie development production or something. You need to remind me.
Yeah, it's called "Don't Get Shipwrecked." Games production for small indies. It's basically like if you have a small team of like 1 to 10 people. How do you actually manage that process? And should you manage that process? Spoilers, the answer is yes.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. If you do happen to be hitting up PAX, then to look for me on stage on the Saturday evening in, I believe it's the Wombat Theatre, where I'll be on the AGPN party mode panel again, where we all sort of compete against the other podcasters around Australia in a series of fun sort of group games. I have just learned as of today that I am not on the same team as our friend Mitch this year, so there's going to be some head-to-head trash talking involved, I think. So, and I'm probably going to lose the trash talking because I totally lost the final round for us last year, so I'm totally in the wrong there. So, anyway. And, of course, we'll be recording our combo episode on Sunday morning, so if you happen to be anywhere near the Audio Technica booth at the show, you can pop by when doors open, and we'll be doing that then. So that'll be a whole bunch of fun. But, Adrian, Christian, don't miss us too much. I'm sure you've got stuff to play while we're gone.
I already don't miss you.
They will appreciate the full week without having to hear a pun.
No,
God.
they won't,
Can
because
you
we
imagine?
have other methods to get that content to them, I'm sure.
Adrian and I always have each other, so that's the really important thing.
That's true.
Yep.
You can zero gravity 69 each other while we're gone as much as you like.
I'm doing it right now.
It's all I can think about, man.
In the meantime, I guess Matt and I will have to do things like check out Doom Eternal, and check out the new Avengers game, and I don't know.
Oh, it's going to suck.
Final Fantasy
Why do we have to
VII
work,
remake.
Luke?
We're going to get some playtime with, I think. So, yeah.
Don't forget to die in a hole.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good time. But anyway, more on that and other stuff later when we come back. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Hope you've enjoyed the show. You can catch us at all the usual locations. So channelendgame.com for the main show hub. Hit us up on email, mail@partyloaded.com, @partyloadedshow on Twitter, and just check for Party Loaded on Facebook. And that is that. So, guys, 2 weeks' time, we'll be back. Prepped, ready to go. Lots of stuff to talk about. Hopefully some more completed games. But 2 weeks. I think we're going to get a surprising amount of gaming in, given how much we've got on in that 2 week period. It should be decent. So
We'll have fun.
yeah, no, it'll be good. All right, well, anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, hope you have a good one. But good night.
Good night.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.